depending on where you're joining from. So we are back again with as promised, with yet another of in the series and the webinars from the APPNA MERIT subcommittee, where we were talking about the research landscape in Pakistan. And our idea, as our the acronym of MERIT subcommittee suggests, is about medical education, research, and technology transfer. So we are continuing on that theme. My name is Sarfraz Hasni, and I'm a rheumatologist and a clinical researcher and director of the lupus clinical research at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. And with me, our moderators are Dr. Sayed Uzair and Dr. Sarfraz Hussain are here. As we always mention that after these webinars, they are available on our YouTube channel. And also, there's a WhatsApp group where we have collected a whole bunch of different resources for clinical resource. So please join that WhatsApp group and come to our YouTube channel after to watch any of the either today or any of the previous webinars. So with that brief introduction, I am going to introduce our we have two speakers today, and both of them are highly accomplished, and perhaps a lot of you already know them. So first speaker will be Professor KHAJA MUJTABA Qadri, and he is the distinguished nephrologist with a wealth of experience and passion for education and research in kidney health. He is currently serving as the head and consultant nephrologist at Maroof International Hospital in Islamabad since January 6, 2020. He also holds a key academic position. He has served as the academic director of the Principles and Practice of Clinical Hypertension Fellowship Program at the World Kidney Academy. And he is also a member of the Executive Committee Board of the World Kidney Academy since last year, and as well as the co-director of the Glomerulonephritis Fellowship. He is which is accredited by the American Academy of Association of Continuing Medical Education. He is also the chair of Pakistan Society of Nephrology Research Committee and is a member of the Board of Governor of the Indus University of Health Sciences in Karachi. His dedication to nephrology education and research is evident in his various roles and contribution to the field. Our next speaker is Dr. MURTAZA HUSSAIN, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Matrix Research, which is a healthcare professional, and he's also a healthcare professional, and he's both a MD and an MBA. He was trained at Khan University Hospital in Karachi and then Aberdeen University in Scotland. He has worked with reputable pharmaceutical organizations, many of them for over a decade. And then after this exposure, he's been involved in clinical trial, and he has been managing the CRO of Pakistan, the Matrix Research. So we will first go with Dr. Qadri, and then Dr. MURTAZA HUSSAIN will take over. And then at the end, we will have some comments from our moderators, and then we'll have some open Q&A. Just a housekeeping rule is that you will see a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. So just put in your questions there. We'll try to ensure to get to them as many questions as possible and try to make it as interactive as possible. So with this, I will request Dr. KHAJA MUJTABA Qadri to please take over. And again, thank you to both of our speakers for taking time to spend some time with us and share their knowledge. So Professor Dr. Qadri, please take it over.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum everyone, and thank you, Sarfraz Hasni Saab, thank you, Zair Saab, and thank you for the introduction. I mean, it's just I guess a life portfolio and nothing brilliant in there, just a little bit of additional years in there. That's all I can say. But today I'm going to share with you something that is very close to my heart, and just to put things in context, as a nephrologist, I have not stuck only to nephrology, but been involved in undergraduate education and postgraduate education, as most of us usually do get involved in some form, curriculum development, and then research. But then I spent 3 years out at the National University of Medical Sciences as the inaugural Research and Academic Development Dean in 2016 to 2019. And that's when I realized what a big gap we have to, fill in the clinical sciences and particularly in research in Pakistan. So I was working with all these basic scientists, all these wonderful PhDs, and I said, my God, I've come here after spending quite a bit of a career in nephrology in Pakistan, and I need to just go back after this university stint and see, is there something we can do for our Pakistani society? Because we've been involved in research, education, training, and capacity building for about 14 years now at different places in Pakistan. But nephrology was one area that I used to keep going to our Pakistan Society of Nephrology annual meetings and wonderful presentations from overseas, expatriate Pakistanis and others, and also from local stalwarts. But the difference in the presentations that we had was that we used to always talk about the lack of data from Pakistan and always quote the data from the US and other places. And that's always something that bothered me. So at the last meeting, so I'll keep going. I think we'll take the next slide here. Dr. Murtaza, are you moving my slide or can I move it?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I apologize for this because we have had a little bit of an accident and I can't, coordinate this. So Murtaza is helping me. Thank you so much. So, just a conflict of interest declaration that all our efforts in the last 18 months, which is what I'm going to be talking about, were gratis, and alhamdulillah, and hopefully, the nation will respond in the form of actively repaying the trust and start doing translational research in Pakistan within the field of nephrology. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in 2022, in March, I was asked to do a talk at the Pakistan Society of Nephrology QUADRI meeting, and it was State of Renal Research in Pakistan. And I somehow wasn't sure if this slide should be projected or not projected, but then I've been mentored by people who talk about uncovering things rather than covering things. So to my surprise, and not a big surprise in some ways, when I did these search terms in PubMed and ParkMedinet, the local favorite, and Google Scholar, and putting in whichever way we could, putting in kidney or renal or nephrology, and then trying to look at different kinds of work done from Pakistan, systematic reviews, randomized controlled trials, cohort, case control, cross-sectional. And, or if you put it in Google Scholar as kidney or renal or nephrology and chronic kidney disease or nephritis in Pakistan, this is what you get. So sum total in PubMed, you get our 2 RCTs in nephrology, no systematic review, 2 cohort studies, 1 case control, and 15 cross-sectional studies. Sum total. That was in 2022 March. Can you just go back, please? Yeah. And then when you look at Google Scholar, 16 RCTs, 1 systematic review, and 1,042 more or less observational studies, and ParkMedinet, I guess 42 observational studies, and nothing in the other 2 columns, which wasn't a surprise. And even in the Google Scholar, what I think they're looking at RCTs are so-called RCTs that have come in from basic scientists and others who, and maybe from pharmacists in the country, but not essentially from the nephrologists. So we've had very few nephrology-related RCTs or systematic reviews there. So that is what we had. Next, please. So at that time, I kind of put together a logic map and a logic model of how the outputs should be and what should be the inputs and what should be the processes for us to come up to some kind of a even keel and try and take off from there as a society. And it was important that we embarked upon a stepwise process to generate the local and internationally benchmarked evidence. And what was proposed was that our research should be obviously be cost effective and relevant and patient centered, and that for the capacity building and mentorship programs in particular, as well as standardization of the infrastructure, we needed a buy-in of all the stakeholders, the current existing supervisors of nephrology, the practicing nephrology community, as well as all the trainees. Next, please. So one of the proposals was to put together these collaborative networks, north and south of Pakistan, as a Pakistan Kidney Research Network, and try and obviously incentivize our research through development of central grants and research and development funds, and then to try and collaborate with faculty such as yourselves, APPNA and others overseas, and try and see if some of you all can serve as advisors and mentors, and bring in these multi-center trials with PIs there and co-PIs here, or vice versa, as the case may be. And I suggested that this is something that we need to try and emulate, because we've had Razi and Ibn Sina, who first described control groups and also the principles of experimentation, as we know. So I think this is important, that there was a legacy, and we keep talking about a legacy, but indeed in this particular case, I think James Lind gets a little more credit than is due for starting clinical trials, because these two stalwarts had described the same principles at least 800 years ago. Next, please. So when you're looking at these studies, obviously this has been the state in the last 2+ decades, and the PSN conferences, I think I came back to Pakistan in 1998, and I guess PSN was active since 95 or 94 or 88, well, I don't know, something like that. But then, so each time I hear the same story, that we don't have local data. So that is what we had in 2022 as well. There was a Pakistan Kidney Research, Pakistan, just like US RDS, just like that, a PKRDS registry that was initiated 3 years ago, and Metrics, whose CEO is with us here today, MURTAZA. So he has been, his team has been going around all around Pakistan trying to get the data of dialysis patients, doing a pretty good job, making us do the inputs every few months or so, and all those things. And certainly, I think that is a commendable effort, but that's not the only solution that we obviously have. So after that meeting, a letter was written to the PSN president, Professor Ijaz Saab, and who not only took it in good stride, but he also took it extremely seriously. And the PSN executive committee has to be commended for putting together all these task forces, the advocacy, the academic research, the registry, the clinical task forces with PD, hemodialysis, AKI, CKD, GA, and all in there. And then they put me in charge of this particular research task force, and that is where the journey began. Next, please. Murtaza? Yeah. Thank you. So if you look at this article from the New England Journal of Medicine, oft quoted, I think it's from 2009, it talks about the ethical and scientific implications of the globalization of clinical research. And the key barriers that were identified include an absence of a capacity for performing high quality clinical research. So they felt that the human resource is there, but this needs to be trained. And of course, the patient-related material is there. This needs to be ethically utilized. And I think that is what was emphasized. And as part of a course that I did, a certification course with Harvard in 2011, the Principles and Practice of Clinical Research course, a 9-month, pretty extensive one. This was one of the key articles they talked about. And they said that this is all that is required if we want to take clinical research and take it into the developing countries. Just train your human resource. Next, please. So this task force was supposed to, review whatever research proposals somebody asked for and give feedback, and then work with capacity building for faculty, residents, and technicians or nurses, and then provide advice for clinical research unit development and how to set up the IRB at various institutes, and then try and get multi-center clinical trials going in through proper registration, and both with the local DRAP as well as internationally, and then to seek grant opportunities and strengthen the Journal of the Pakistan Journal of Kidney Disease, and to develop some kind of a multi-centered research network nationwide. So these were the people that were put together. For whatever reason, I guess I was put in charge simply because I asked for a little bit of a change. So there you go. So I had to wear that hat. But I had lots of stalwarts with me in there that you're going to be seeing, and the role they played in this particular journey that then took off for 18 months. Next, please. So this is one of my favorite pictures now all time, and I put it up behind me, and you can't see it because this epitomizes the motivation for the Pakistan Society of Nephrology Research Task Force, and this is what we all got as one of the tangible rewards, and I think long-term rewards, inshallah, will be in the form of translational research going on in nephrology. Next, please. Yeah, Murtaza. Thank you. So these two, basically, this is like the outcome, and but I want to put them up first because the president, Professor Ijaz Ahmed, out at SIUT, he put together all these task forces with his team, and one of the motivating forces were right with him. Onto the left of your screen is Professor Salman Imtiaz from the Indus Hospital and Health Network. And these two, he was the General Secretary of the Pakistan Society of Nephrology, and Ijaz Saab was the president. And then they put together this task force, and Shaukat Memon on the right side served as the secretary of the task force, putting us all in line and making sure all the minutes of all the meetings were diligently followed through, and all the schedules were followed throughout Pakistan. Next, please. So Professor Waqar Kazmi, who is the principal of Karachi Medical and Dental College, was a co-chair of this research task force. I had asked initially for him to take on the chair's role, but I think he preferred to not take the limelight, and I respect him for that. But yet he served as our lead mentor throughout these the efforts that were made subsequently of taking workshops and journal clubs all over Pakistan to try and build up capacity. So he not only served as a co-director for the research workshops, he was the prime faculty for observational studies. He had done a lot of good work at Tufts during his fellowship years with I think Andrew Levy and group. And then he was the guru for cohort case control and cross-sectional designs, synopsis writing, and particularly on the second day, he would literally, it's like hands-on SPSS workshops that he would do along with Dr. Beena Salman, Professor Salman's wife, who also has to be commended for the role she played. And then he also was a journal club mentor. So he had a major role in shaping up the understanding or capacity for research within this community. Next, please. So to the left here is Professor Salman's wife, Beena Salman, an expert in her own right. She was the biostatistician with the group. So when Professor Waqar was, a nephrologist plus somebody who had a master's in epidemiology, she also, as a physician, has a master's in epidemiology and biostatistics, and she carried on a lot of the hands-on workshop role on day 2 of these workshops. Professor Rubina Naqvi on the right, a mentee of Professor, none other than Professor Sayyid Adib al-Hassan Rizvi Saab at SIUT, has been playing a quiet but very dynamic role at SIUT for over 3 decades now that I know. And so she also served as an expert facilitator for systematic review and meta-analysis, but she crowned it off by becoming the principal investigator for one of our first nationwide collaborative randomized controlled trials that is now ready to take off. A few cases may have already been recruited at SIUT, vitamin E versus placebo in prevention of transfusion-related acute kidney injury because of a concept of ferroptosis due to iron injury in pregnant women with, who subsequently at a time of postpartum hemorrhage, when they develop that, then they get all these transfusions. So that leads to acute kidney injury and subsequently chronic kidney disease. So maybe vitamin E as an antioxidant or may have some kind of a role in that is what she hypothesized. And this study was kind of, has taken off at this point. Next, please. So on your left is Professor Ali Asghar Lainwala, who served as a bioethics expert, and he's been a professor of pediatric nephrology, again, for the past 2 decades nearly at SIUT, and he's got his master's in bioethics, and he painstakingly went through his workshop material related to actual, I mean, like they had some role playing within that some of the faculty played at SIUT, and it helped in understanding a lot of the concepts of good clinical practice and certainly care of vulnerable subjects, informed consent, and the like. Professor Farooq Qureshi, I think, is out in Stony Brook, New York, and he was also one of the earliest motivators. He specifically came down and met Professor Salman Imtiaz and others in Karachi and the SIUT team, saying that, yeah, I've done, I'm a translational scientist. He's a PhD in data science, and he was very much interested in registries and the like. And he used to come to Pakistan, and each time felt that he had something to give. And then, he was promptly incorporated into the task force, and they played a major role in teaching and learning how to formulate a research question, as well as proposal writing and how to win good grants and the budgeting processes and all the like. So he would stay up till 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, sometime 1, out in New York, trying to do these early morning sessions for us, which had to be done sometimes at that time because of the way the logistics of the conference of the workshops were organized. So we really are indebted to him as well. And next, please. So on your left, you will see Mr. Uzair. He's the coordinator of Pakistan Society of Nephrology, and he's the one who played a major role and continues to play a major role at the PSN Secretariat, trying to coordinate the efforts. But he physically accompanied us throughout Pakistan in order to ensure that all that was planned was delivered. And along with him is Brigadier Halim, who's the PSN president for Islamabad. On the right is Sami Pharmaceuticals, and I think they played a major role behind the scenes in their corporate social responsibility towards the PSN, and I wanted to acknowledge them also. Thank you. Next, please. So here, Dr. Ruqayya Rizwan was a manuscript writing expert. She is with Professor Waqar out at Sheikh Zayed. And I had to wear multiple hats during this thing. So that is what I am here on Independence Day at Quaid Hospital on the right. And my job was to talk about and to explain principles of informed consent, the randomized controlled trials, good clinical practice, a quiz, and I continue to mentor the journal clubs and also served as a co-director for workshops. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is how each of our workshops would look like. The people on the right, you can read who they are, but on the left is how the workshops were organized. And these workshops were started off with Lahore. Next slide, please. Can you please move it, Murtaza? Yeah, thanks. And then these journal clubs started in parallel every month. So whatever we learned in these workshops, we would just revisit the concepts through journal clubs, which were predominantly RCTs or systematic reviews or cohort studies. Next, please. So the series of journal clubs continues, and I just went through that a little while ago, about 2 hours back. So and that hopefully will set the tone for the younger generation to pick up the lead. Next, please. Yeah, Murtaza, keep moving. So we used to give a CME certificate for 12 or 14 hours. Then we moved on to the second one in Peshawar. Next, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this was more or less a resident, nephrology resident. So their feedback is important. And for most of these activities, whether it was the objectives or organization or the environment or knowledge gaps and whatever, majority felt we did a reasonable job. And this was from the nephrology trainees, mostly from KPK, who came together from the major hospitals. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. So again, I mean, like they had some feedback for us. But in RCTs, I want you to take a look at this. This is the content of what we used to go when we are talking about clinical trials, because we want to really collaborate with APPNA MERIT and others to try and bring together these multi-center PI-initiated or industry-initiated sometimes trials to Pakistan. We are ready for it because we go through all of these aspects in a lot of detail. People have been trained in this country, and all these aspects that you can see here following the consort statement. Next, please. Next slide, please. Murtaza? Yeah. Keep moving. So this is then we went on to Karachi and then Quetta. Next, please. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So when we went to Islamabad, can you go back? Can you go back? Yeah. One more slide. Can you go back? Go back, please. Go back one more slide. Yeah. So we then invited, a national faculty to meet in Islamabad on the 14th of August to try and see if we could come up with a national plan for randomized controlled trials or other collaborative studies. So the invitation was sent out, and 50 to 60 faculty members were flown into Islamabad, and we were there for 3 days, 2 days for the workshop, and the third day for the small group breakout sessions where we came together with certain protocols. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. Next slide. So yeah, a lot of fun in that activity as well. Next slide, please. Keep going. Keep going. So we used to have this research quiz. So here, so we can see that we initially had this large group, and then we had 3 small groups. Keep going. Keep moving. Yeah. So, and we distributed this consort sheet and the strobe statement for both for RCTs as well as for observational designs. Next slide, please. Keep moving. Thank you. Yeah. And this is what we were supposed to do during those working groups, to formulate a research question and at least propose a study design and develop primary and secondary outcome measures and the eligibility criteria. That's it. And then we were supposed to work in small groups over the next 3-4 months to try and come up on the consort pattern for with either 1 or 2 RCTs and one maybe an observational design, and present back to the group. And then these groups worked in parallel. So we had received about 7 proposals, and then 3 or 4 working groups developed, and then eventually 2 saw the light of the day. Next, please. Next slide, yeah. So these are everybody that you know in the country in nephrology was practically there from the senior faculty members, and within a fun-filled activity, but they were all a serious group who actually, were invested in this research venture. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Okay, so then at that point, after this particular conference, they disbanded the research task force somewhere October, November, and made a research committee with a duration of 3 years. And again, wanted me to take on the role, and I felt that there were a lot of younger people in the country who now need to take the board forwards, and we will be glad to help out as mentors, taking the back seat. But we are certainly going to, inshallah, move on with newer leadership come 1st of March at our next week's Pakistan Society of Nephrology conference. Next slide, please. Okay, so this research committee is, basically supposed to consolidate all the efforts and capacity building, as well as to develop these networks throughout the country. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the process now that the PSN Executive Committee came, has now basically established within its secretariat that, they will have these things, the research proposal coming in the form of a synopsis, and then the research committee would get involved, taking a look at it. Then the centers would be offered participation. There'll be approvals by the institutional review boards and the Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan as when relevant, as well as the National Bioethics Committee. And then what grants would be put together at the level of the PSN, and then through our CRO, one of those them will be a metrics that is already working with us, and then all data will be centralized in the PSN head office. And after that, there'll be the dissemination of information following the ICMJ guidelines when the manuscripts are taken to publication. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So if we just, in the end, I would like to just talk about the program evaluation and the way forward. So we conducted 5 hands-on workshops in all the 4 provincial capitals and in the federal capital. Nearly 250 registrants were trained, both at the senior level as well as the trainee level. Over 10 monthly mentor journal clubs have been conducted. Today was the 11th or 12th. Over 10 task force minutes meetings were conducted with research fora. 1 national collaborative proposal development workshop was conducted for about 60 faculty members. 7 proposals for collaborative research came through. 4 were discussed in 3 working groups over 3 months. 2 were eventually, saw the light of the day. 1 national collaborative RCT and 1 CKD collaborative registry are now going to be underway for the next, couple of years or so, inshallah. And then the CRO, one of them, Metrics, has been our partner in this effort, both with the PKRDS as well as in these. And then subsequently, this research committee should be taking things forward. And we are hoping that there will be some liaison with the APPNA MERIT and through through you guys to see how we can put together all that you guys have been doing with all the various societies, but particularly now with the Nephrology Society, because we think that we are now positioned to accept international trials. I think the COVID was a wake-up call, and people just started doing trials without knowing the methodology, and they learned on the job, and which is a very dangerous thing. But then COVID was such. But now this is the time when we have put together everything in a solid, on solid ground, so that we can build on this. And our next week's conference will have speakers who have original data. So we're no longer going to just have people with eminence-based expertise based on time spent, but based on what they've actually done in the field to do our talks in the future, inshallah. Next, please. So in the last slide, next one. Next slide. Yeah. So, about 1 crore rupees, just go back. Can you go back? One slide, yeah. So about 1 crore rupees, I don't know what is that in dollars now, probably not a whole lot, but it's okay for Pakistan. So have been put aside by PSN for research seed grants. Research endowment funds probably should be created. I'm proposing that we have some grants announced by the 1st of May, and then have a process whereby then they should be then awarded for 1 to 2 years on renewable basis, and reports, interim and final, being presented at PSN meetings as well as international meetings. We continue the monthly mentor journal clubs and research fora, and continue to do our workshops throughout Pakistan, but just do twice, maybe North and South invitation every year, and then strengthen our journals and obviously have younger leadership step up. Next, please. So one more slide, Murtaza. Yeah. And then with the CRO also, we want to, can you go back? With metrics and others with renal subspecialty portfolios, I think we should be able to move forward with both APPNA MERIT as well as APPNA Nephrology, and so that we can both accommodate the academia-sponsored phase 3 trials in particular from the beginning, and even phase 2 in certain centers, which are approved by BRAP for that, and industry-sponsored as well. We should be able to do that. And then then we can establish perhaps endowed grants, and perhaps why not have annual or biannual clinical research workshops perhaps in a hybrid fashion. Next, please. So I'd like to acknowledge, of course, the president of the Pakistan Society of Nephrology, the PSN Executive Committee, our task force and research committee, their co-directors and the other faculty members in these workshops, the research committee secretary and coordinator, the entire Pakistan Society of Nephrology family, and APPNA MERIT and research, and Dr. Sayyid Uzair, the current APPNA MERIT chair, who's been very kind and who's been very collaborative since our association a few years back. And I think for giving us the chance to present our work today. And I believe that there's one more slide after this, and then I will be done. One more, please.
Yeah,
that's it. Thank you very
yes,
much.
this is
So
the last.
I'm sorry if I went over the time, but this was a 18-month journey. We tried to do it in about 25 minutes. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Now, Murtaza, can you? I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarfraz. I'll take this up from here. Thank you so much, Dr. MUJTABA Qadri. You are a true inspiration for all of us. And I mean it in all in the deepest sense, because I've seen you personally, seen you propel clinical research for years now. And I'm just very fortunate to have your guidance also throughout my journey. And Matrix Research is the CRO, the pioneer CRO of Pakistan. Just a quick introduction of Matrix Research is necessary so that I can build up on what and how Matrix has been able to contribute, play our little part in promoting clinical research in the nephrology segment, specifically in Pakistan. We've been around since 2005. So, I'm talking about a time when there were no regulations in place. Drug Regulatory Authority of Pakistan was formulated in 2012. So we've seen the thicks and thins of clinical research and how it has evolved over these past couple of decades in Pakistan. And Alhamdulillah, I think as Dr. MUJTABA has already mentioned, this Pakistan Kidney Renal Data System, the PKRDS platform. This is, yes, was an inspiration from USRDS. And it was an initiative that was taken in 2018 by Pakistan Society of Nephrology. Now, this in the spirit of talking about real world data gathering projects and real world evidences, yes, the theme always has been to capture details that can eventually lead to some real world evidences. And yes, ultimately, the ultimate goal for all these data systems is maybe influence the policies that are made on national level that can impact the healthcare system, and specifically talking about the impact going to the primary care and the secondary care. We have been involved in the project since 2021, and again, we are very grateful and thankful to Pakistan Society of Nephrology for allowing us to play our little part here. So when we started getting involved in PKRDS, we had to do a lot of work at grassroots level, because and let me just come back to this point when I go further in the methodology slides and in how we eventually executed this project. So this was agreed upon with Pakistan Society of Nephrology that we would try and expand the base of PKRDS system, specifically talking about capturing the details from from the second and the third tier cities, where perhaps the buy-in for giving data had some real-time challenges. So we, Alhamdulillah, have a team of dedicated CRAs who were eventually involved in, so the basic task was first to identify all these centers. Our aim is, and so just to reiterate that this is an ongoing process. Every month we have a significant update in how the whole system has been progressing. Um, what we do primarily is that we go and identify centers, and first and foremost is try and convince them to allow us to capture data. I will talk about what we are doing in PKRDS. So PKRDS is primarily focused on capturing the data for hemodialysis. The questionnaire is simple. We've intentionally kept it simple in a way that we can capture the basic demographics of the patients, but also the basic methodologies that are adapted at the different dialysis centers. I'm specifically again talking about the secondary care hospitals and the small setups. This is where Matrix has played a role. So we were involved in not only data collection, data entry, but also reconcile the data in a method that can help us come up with some sort of a conclusion at the end of every month. So this has been our effort. When we started the project, PKRDS was primarily focused in Punjab province. For a lot of reasons, and I think for lack of time, I would like to focus on how we have been able to progress from in the beginning from 34 centers, 34 active machines, hemodialysis centers with active machines, to Alhamdulillah now a total of 152 centers with 146 active machines over a span of a good 2.5 years. So we have a live data capturing, live by live. What I mean to say is that we've agreed upon an interval of 3 months. Every 3 months, we ensure that there is a repetitive entry from a registered center where hemodialysis is taking place. So far, the system has captured 6,461 systems. So I'm presenting the data till 30th of January this year. And this has been the breakup. So our efforts have specifically, been focused on enhancing the geographical reach, but also ensuring that we go to those areas where generally the reach is kind of challenging, and there are numerous factors associated with that. What we've been able to provide as a solution in PKRDS is, so as I've been talking about this, the targeted outreach, and of course establish these communication channels that can help us include more and more people in this system. And this was a tricky thing to execute also, because when you talk about, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the geography of Pakistan, how there is that the biggest struggle that I would say that was ahead of us when we had taken up this task was to ensure that we can strategically plan our resources visits in a way, because we had some please allow me to share this, that we had a lot of budget limitations as well in this. So our main aim was to ensure at least one visit in the first 6 months, 2 visits at every center that was incorporated by a trained CRA who knows, and our team has shown extreme dedication in this, in ensuring that the coverage has been that we meet this criteria, that at least 2 visits are done in the first 6 months. And our aim of those 2 visits is and will remain a transfer of power towards the sites, because we are talking about real world data gathering. And of course there was an EDC tool that was already in place. So thanks to PSN, again, this was something that was very well thought of to begin with. But of course, it's a very, I would, like to call it a very basic electronic data capturing tool that is currently under utilization for this process. process. And we've, from PKRDS, we learned a lot of lessons. And again, I'm extremely thankful to the PSN Research Task Force for allowing us to give our inputs, the practical inputs, the challenges, but also more importantly, the opportunities that we had identified while working on this project for 2.5 years. We did a lot of thorough homework, and this homework resulted in this, Alhamdulillah, we've signed this new contract effective from February 2024. And with this, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to take a backseat from PKRDS, because in PKRDS, we are basically evaluating hemodialysis patients. And this was again the PSN Research Task Force's brainchild, that we wanted to take a step behind and move towards chronic renal failure causes, and what eventually leads to these patients coming to the therapies of hemodialysis eventually. So we've been in the process of designing questionnaires, and I will talk about the questionnaire in the subsequent slides. What we have currently done is that we have designed and already now, Alhamdulillah, in the process of execution for a new real world data registry project. Now, this registry project, we are getting approvals from NBC. We have already achieved that. We've already submitted it and gotten our approvals from all the IRBs. And we have already formulated the ECRFs, had thorough discussions on how we will collect data, analyze and review it eventually. We've agreed upon, again, a quarterly review so that we know and we can, redirect ourselves if required. The scope of work that we've signed is also project coordination with the Pakistan Society of Nephrology. And then monthly update reports, yes, on what and how the operations have been progressing. But as I shared, that quarterly reports we've agreed upon for data review, so that we can prepare ourselves and make sure that the annual report that comes out, at the end of next year, inshallah, is going to be something that can try and achieve the primary aims that we have already chalked out for this project. So the questionnaire is prepared now. As I said, that we are at the stage of our NBC submission has already been done, and we are, there are a couple of queries that we need to resolve that have already been responded to, and inshallah we'll be all set to go because we've already worked on the last step, and we are now using an international electronic data capturing tool, REDCap, institutional access with all the features that are required to ensure that our data is not only captured in the best possible manner, but is also secure, and we take care of all the guidelines of real world data capturing evidences. So we will inshallah comply with the CFR 21 compliances of FDA for real world data capturing. And the questionnaire, as I said, I'll come back to this. What we have, again, we have not tried to complicate this, try to keep it simple so that, we can enable maximum number of entries with maximum outcomes as well that can really help us streamline the real world data evidences that are being gathered in Pakistan right now. We will, of course, try and capture the basic demographics of the patients with the labs. And yes, there are some clear challenges when we talk about lab investigations, because these need to be generalized, these need to be relatable, but we will have to overcome these barriers, because you have to start from somewhere is what we had agreed upon eventually. But having said that, we will try and ensure that eventually, so 10 years down the line, if I dare say, we will inshallah also have streamlined generalized lab investigations on our protocols. so what we are primarily trying to aim for is to understand the causes of chronic renal failure, the types of renal diseases, and there can be some real big surprises awaiting us when we capture this data, because we know that, in general, when we talk about the causes of chronic renal failures, uh, we might have very stark and alarming numbers coming in for some very preventable causes, which is what we are hypothesizing in capturing this real world data. And we want to see how we can eventually, try and influence the public policies. This is the eventual aim of this real world data capturing project. We will also move beyond hemodialysis from PKRDS and also try and capture peritoneal dialysis now. And yes, there are the renal transplant efforts that are being, that have been put in. This is something of real interest for us also, just to see how, we can project that eventually to the international platforms. So we already have some big centers that have signed the MOU for this upcoming project, and we're very excited about this because honestly, in previously the biggest limitation that we had in PKRDS was that the big centers that we that are doing the bulk of dialysis in the tier 1 metropolitan cities, we had limitation of capturing data for PKRDS over there. So in a nutshell, again, and this is my last slide, so that I'm sorry, I want to leave some time for Q&A and for discussions after this. But what we are aiming for is, and as Dr. Mujtaba has already shared this, move it beyond real world data evidences, get into some post-marketing surveillance trials, observational studies that can also, arise from the data that we are capturing here. But as Dr. Mujtaba has already shared, the local plans, and we've already started working with PSN on a few of their accepted ideas to help them and to understand and to give them a clear path on how to conduct trials, considering the local regulations that have, alhamdulillah, been very well placed in Pakistan now. And what most importantly for this APPNA platform, what I want to really emphasize on, that Dr. Mujtaba has already touched upon in his talk, is bringing in renal segment phase 3 clinical trials in Pakistan. We need your support, please, here. Matrix in its own limited capacity, what we have been doing and trying to do very aggressively, alhamdulillah, in the past couple of years, is project Pakistan as a fertile land for clinical trials for these commercial entities, for the pharmaceuticals. But I'm also talking about the institutes and the grants that eventually come up. So in favor of time, let me just put up all the points that I want to put across. So one point that I want to highlight here is that Matrix has already been partnering with George Clinical, one of the biggest CROs of Australia, and they specialize in the renal segment. They have global presence. So we've been working on some feasibilities of bringing in specifically nephropathy trials was something that, so we worked on 3 feasibilities with George Clinical on this, and we are their exclusive partners for Pakistan as well. We need your support, please, here in helping us move this cause further, because eventually when we talk about the clinical trial arena, it's all about putting yourself up on the map right now for Pakistan. And as on this forum of APPNA, I would request all of you to please help us increase this share of voice for the country, so that we can not only talk about conducting our own internal researches, which is, alhamdulillah, something that is very well on the way with all these excellent efforts that PSN is making. Our aim also is to make sure that PSN is not just does not just remain a local so to say on a national level capturing data. We would eventually inshallah also like to present PSN as an international data owner. We have owner for, and we have multiple plans for that. We have also been involved in building clinical research capacity in Pakistan, working with the local pharmaceutical industry. And I've also recently developed a portfolio for assistance in grant writings to the institutes. So these are all the sections where I feel there is a very clear bridge that can be formed between APPNA and Pakistan Society of Nephrology and the local clinical trial industry to help us further this cause. On that note, thank you so much. And please, I would like to now open the floor to some questions and some comments, please, if there are any. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much to both of you, Professor Qadri and MURTAZA, for your very comprehensive review of the research landscape, especially in the nephrology space, as you have just mentioned. I think we only have a few minutes left, and I would request both our moderators, both our commentators, Dr. Zair and Dr. Sarussan, to share a few words based on what they've heard from you, and then if there is some time left, then we will go over the questions. So over to you, Dr. Zair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarfraz Hasni, Professor Qadri, and Dr. Murtaza. I'm so much delighted, to see the data which is moving. I think data is the real missing link, and we have yet to see and mature this market. Quickly, just having a look to the some of the question, and then I will request Professor Sarwat Qadri. Just a word. There is two comments and one question that submission of proposal to a PSN, is it open only to members or to all potential researchers? The question is to Professor Qadri, please.
Yeah, so the PSN research committee is not going to be anything exclusive. So anything that can have a PSN as a partner, if anything collaborative, we'll be open to that. I don't think there should be any problem with that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Perfect. So I think we need to develop this culture, and this is the first few steps that we are moving in that direction. I'll be honest with you, I don't know, do we have a really validated figure for the normal blood pressure of our population? Because Professor Qadri may be knowing how many studies have so far been conducted. What is the exact normal range of the normal blood pressure of Pakistani population? Because each and every population is unique. So Professor Qadri, what's your experience, please?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that the only large-scale epidemiological data that comes out from Pakistan are from Tazeen Jafar's work. And she is now in Singapore, and she's part of the International Society of Hypertension. So a lot of epidemiological work in Karachi regarding our normals and how well we are controlling our blood pressures. And of course, just like in the United States and everywhere else in the world, most of the population, 40 to 60%, are uncontrolled. A lot of them, obviously are non-adherent. So when you're talking about normals, yeah, I mean, like I would have to say that those studies are from 20 years ago, and have to go back and see what were the normals defined out there. We understand that cardiovascular death and the BMI standards that we hold on the West to, for Pakistan, most of those BMIs which might be considered underweight are considered normal in our population. So that's also some of the work that has been done by Tazeen's group. So when we are going to normalize the blood pressure and all that, obviously the whole world has moved down to 130, 80 and beyond as stage 1 in the ACC guidelines, and 140, 90 is the International Society of Hypertension guidelines. They're still focusing on 140, 90. So, but in our population, what are the what are the normality curve and all that? I think work needs to be done again to come to that particular thing and try and develop national standards. But from what we so far go with, these are the International Society of Hypertension guidelines. So for us at this point in time, in the absence of any further evidence to the contrary, we obviously would stick to those guidelines at this point in time. But yeah, the question is, epidemiological work is being done, but we need to also look at studies which can affect causation. So we are looking at these randomized controlled trials, the clinical efficacy and clinical effectiveness trials. I think this is where my push would be, because I'm not an epidemiologist. I've been trained a little bit in clinical research aspects other than the epidemiological aspects. So I'm going to be focusing all my energies in trying to build capacity in this area, but there are others who certainly are more well-versed than I am in the country to take that thing forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now it's over to Professor Sarwat. So to
Ji,
comment and
Assalamualaikum.
really and
I
then
actually,
formally close.
Ji, thank you, sir. In the interest of time, I think the only thing I'll say that I had a pleasure of meeting Professor MUJTABA at NUMS in 2016, and nice to see you, sir. And so I'm not gonna. I will only thank the speakers for outstanding presentations, and I'm not going to ask any question in the interest of time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Dr. Sarfraz, over to you to formally thank and close the session, please. Dr. Sarfraz.
Okay, so I think we try to keep things on time. Started late, so I apologize for those who were put down the questions and we were not. Inshallah, will and to the other web. Please stay tuned for that. And again, our immense thanks to both the speakers, Professor Qadri and Professor Hussain, for their
Unfortunately, I think there is some issues anyway from the wavelet. So formally, we are extremely thankful to both the respected
Walid and his team.
Yeah.
For all the technical support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.